You know what's fascinating? Right now, millions of men are sitting in silence while their partner screams at them about something that happened 3 years ago. They're being told they're wrong for things they didn't do, apologising for thoughts they never had, and somehow losing arguments about their own feelings. And when these men finally say, "I'm done," society acts shocked. Where have all the good men gone? They're gone. They checked out. They realised the game is rigged. Let me explain why so many men are walking away from relationships entirely, and why the number keeps growing every single day. Here's a test that reveals everything. Next time you're in an argument with a woman, try to identify what you're actually arguing about. I guarantee you can't. Because it started about dishes, moved to her mother, jumped to that time in 2019, circled back to your tone, and somehow ended with you apologising for her feelings. This isn't accidental, this isn't how women are, this is strategy. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The female emotionality as strategic behaviour is something most men never recognise. You think she's just upset, just emotional, just needs to vent. But watch the pattern. The tears come exactly when you're making a valid point. The anger erupts precisely when you ask for accountability. The confusion happens right when you need a straight answer. It's not random, it's tactical. And it works because you've been programmed to see female emotion as authentic rather than strategic. I had a client whose girlfriend would cry every time he brought up her spending. Every single time. He'd show bank statements, she'd cry, he'd mention budget, tears, he'd ask about the credit card, waterworks. For 2 years, he never finished a financial conversation because he was too busy comforting her. She spent them into $30,000 of debt while he was apologising for making her cry about money. The manipulative communication dynamics are masterful once you understand them. She doesn't want clarity. Clarity means accountability. She wants confusion because confusion means control. So she'll bring up 17 different issues, mix past with present, blend feelings with facts, until you're so disoriented you don't even remember what started the conversation. You're playing chess while she's playing psychological warfare. A buddy of mine recorded an argument with his ex, legal in his state. Played it back for me. In 20 minutes she changed topics 14 times. 14. He tried to address each one, but before he could finish she jumped to something else. By the end, he was apologising and neither of us could figure out what for that's not communication. That's combat designed to look like conversation. The hidden belief systems that define control run deeper than most men realise. There are these unspoken rules, these myths that modern relationships operate on, and if you don't know them, you're already losing. These aren't written anywhere, never explicitly stated, but they govern everything, and questioning them, that makes you the bad guy. The first myth, the mind-reading expectation, is absolutely insane when you think about it. She expects you to know what she wants without telling you, know what she's thinking without hints, understand her needs without communication, and when you don't care enough to pay attention. It's a game where the rules are secret, the goalposts move, and losing is guaranteed. Think about this. If you went to work and your boss expected you to complete tasks without telling you what they were, then fired you for not doing them, that would be considered insane. But in relationships, that's just Tuesday. If you loved me, you'd know. No, if you loved me, you'd tell me. But that's logical, and logic has no place here. The second myth, emotional supremacy, is even more destructive. Her feelings aren't just valid, they're facts. She feels disrespected. Then you disrespected her, regardless of your intent she feels unloved. Then you don't love her, regardless of your actions. Her emotions become reality, and reality becomes negotiable. You're not discussing what happened anymore, you're discussing how she felt about what she thinks happened. I counselled a man whose wife accused him of having an affair because she felt like he was cheating. No evidence, no suspicious behaviour, she just felt it. And in her mind, her feeling was proof enough. He had to prove his innocence against her feeling. How do you disprove a feeling? You can't. That's the point. It's unfalsifiable accusation disguised as intuition. The third myth, double standards in emotional expression, is the most obvious yet most accepted. She can scream, throw things, say the most vicious words imaginable, that's just expressing herself. You raise your voice once, you're aggressive, dangerous, abusive. She can have a mental breakdown monthly. That's hormones. You have one bad day, you're unstable and need therapy. A client's wife threw plates at him during an argument. Actual plates. When he raised his voice, telling her to stop, she called the police saying she felt threatened. He was removed from his own home. She destroyed property and assaulted him. But his raised voice was the crime. This isn't an anomaly. This is the system working as designed. The cultural reinforcement of female victimhood is everywhere. Every movie, every show, every article reinforces the same message. Women's emotions are valid, men's are toxic. Women's anger is empowerment, men's anger is abuse. Women's tears are authentic, men's tears are manipulation. The entire culture is structured to validate female emotion while pathologizing male emotion. Social media amplifies this exponentially. A woman posts about feeling sad, hundreds of comments offering support. A man posts about feeling sad. Man up. Stop being weak. Women have it worse. The message is clear. Male emotion only matters when it serves women. Otherwise, shut up and provide. The consequences for men in relationships are devastating. You're trapped in an unwinnable game. Question her emotions. You're insensitive and don't care. Validate her emotions. You're admitting guilt for whatever she's feeling. Try to find middle ground. You're manipulative. There's no right answer because the game isn't designed for you to win. Every interaction becomes a minefield. You're constantly walking on eggshells, censoring yourself, calculating risk. Will this comment trigger an argument? Will this opinion cause a meltdown? Will this boundary create a crisis? You're not living. You're surviving. You're not partnered. You're hostage to someone else's emotional state. I see the effects in my practice daily. Men so beaten down they don't even recognize themselves. Guys who used to be confident now second-guessing every word, leaders in their careers who become followers in their homes. Strong men reduced to emotional servants, existing solely to manage someone else's feelings, while their own are ignored or punished. The exposure as empowerment starts with recognizing these patterns. Once you see that her emotions are tactics, not truths, everything changes. Once you understand the myths aren't laws, you can break them. Once you recognize the game is rigged, you can choose not to play. This isn't about becoming cold or cruel. It's about reclaiming your reality. When you stop accepting her feelings as fact, something interesting happens. She gets angry at first. Very angry. How dare you not validate her reality? But then, if you hold firm, something shifts. She either respects the boundary or reveals herself as someone who needs control more than connection. Either way, you win, through improved relationship or revealed truth. The underlying message about power and truth is critical. This isn't about lies. Everyone knows when someone's lying. This is about myths that feel true because culture reinforces them. The myth that male suffering matters less. The myth that female emotion equals truth. The myth that questioning women's feelings is abuse. These myths maintain power structures that benefit one side while destroying the other. Men are waking up to this reality en masse. They're seeing friends destroyed in divorce court, brothers falsely accused, fathers alienated from children, careers ended by accusations, and they're doing the math. What exactly is the benefit of this arrangement? What are they getting that justifies this level of risk? The modern relationship offer to men is basically this: provide everything, expect nothing. Pay for everything, own nothing, sacrifice everything, guarantee nothing. Be responsible for her happiness, but don't expect reciprocation. Manage her emotions, but bury your own. And if she's unhappy for any reason, lose half your assets and access to your kids. Young men especially are looking at this deal and saying no thanks. They're seeing their fathers broken by divorce, their brothers destroyed by false accusations, their friends trapped in sexless marriages, and they're choosing video games, hobbies, friendships, career, anything but relationships. Not because they can't get women, but because they've analysed the cost-benefit and found it wanting. The statistics are staggering. Marriage rates at historic lows, birth rates crashing, young men checking out of dating entirely, and instead of asking, what's wrong with the deal we're offering men, society asks, what's wrong with men? The lack of self-awareness is breathtaking. The strategic use of confusion in arguments goes beyond just topic switching. Watch how she'll suddenly bring up your tone when you're making a logical point. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. Now you're not discussing facts anymore, you're defending your emotional expression. She'll claim you're yelling when you're speaking normally, say you're being mean when you're being factual, accuse you of attacking her when you're defending yourself. The goal is to make you so focused on defending your communication style that you forget the actual issue. I watched this happen to a friend in real time. His girlfriend borrowed his car and crashed it. When he asked about insurance details, she burst into tears about how he was making her feel bad about an accident. Suddenly he's comforting her about his crashed car. She never did handle the insurance. He paid for everything while apologising for his insensitivity about his own destroyed property. The emotional supremacy myth extends to retroactive revision of history. She doesn't just feel things in the moment, she can feel things about the past that change what actually happened. That great vacation you took, she now feels it was awful. So it was awful. That gift you gave her, she now feels it was thoughtless. So it was thoughtless. Your entire shared history becomes subject to her current emotional state. A client's ex-wife claimed in court that their entire 10-year marriage was abusive. Her evidence? She now felt that his working long hours was emotional abandonment. Him wanting a prenup was financial abuse. His requesting she get a job was controlling. Every normal relationship negotiation was reframed through her current feelings as abuse, and the court took it seriously. The myth-building process starts early in relationships. She tests what she can get away with. Small emotional manipulations at first. If you accept them, they escalate. If you challenge them, she tests your boundaries differently. It's like training a person to accept increasingly unreasonable demands by starting with seemingly reasonable ones. The progression is predictable. First, you're wrong about small things you know you're right about. Then you're apologising for things you didn't do. Then you're accepting blame for her feelings. Then you're responsible for her happiness. Finally, you exist solely to serve her emotional needs while having none of your own. It happens so gradually you don't notice until you're completely enslaved. The double standards in emotional expression get worse over time. Initially, she might acknowledge your feelings occasionally, but as the relationship progresses, your emotions become increasingly irrelevant. Her bad day requires full attention and support. Your bad day is you being negative and bringing her down. Her stress is valid and needs addressing. Your stress is you not handling things well. Here's what's really happening. Men are discovering they don't need what's being offered. They thought they needed relationships for happiness, for completeness, for validation. Then they tried relationships and found misery, depletion, and criticism. So they're trying life without relationships and discovering something shocking. It's actually pretty good. A client told me something profound. I spent 10 years trying to make her happy and was miserable. I've spent 2 years making myself happy and feel great. He's got money now because no one's spending it, peace because no one's creating drama, time because no one's demanding attention, energy because no one's draining it. He's not anti-woman, he's pro-himself. The freedom men discover when they walk away is intoxicating. No more arguments about nothing. No more apologising for existing. No more managing someone else's emotions. No more being wrong by default. No more working yourself to death for someone who's never satisfied. Just peace, growth, and actual happiness. But here's what's interesting. Many men don't even get angry about it. They just get tired, exhausted. They reach a point where the next argument isn't worth having. The next accusation isn't worth defending. The next demand isn't worth meeting. They don't leave in rage. They leave in resignation. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. I see this exhaustion in men's eyes. They're not bitter. They're done. They've tried everything. Read the books, went to therapy, communicated more, listened better, provided more, expected less. Nothing worked because the game isn't designed to work. It's designed to extract maximum value while providing minimum return. The strategic withdrawal men are executing is logical. If a business deal consistently loses money, you exit. If an investment never pays returns, you divest. If a game is rigged against you, you don't play. Men are applying basic logic to relationships and reaching obvious conclusions. The emotional manipulation that clouds judgment is clearing, and reality is becoming visible. The gaslighting that happens when men try to discuss this is predictable. You're just bitter. Who hurt you? You'll die alone. You're missing out. But are they? What exactly are they missing? The privilege of financing someone else's lifestyle. The joy of constant criticism. The thrill of walking on eggshells, the excitement of potential false accusations. Men are doing the calculation and realizing that modern relationships are like casinos. The house always wins. Sure, occasionally someone hits the jackpot, finds a unicorn, gets a good one, but the odds are heavily stacked against you, and the longer you play, the more certain your loss becomes. The shame tactics are losing effectiveness, calling men incels for having standards, commitment phobic for recognizing bad deals, immature for refusing to sacrifice themselves, selfish for prioritizing their own well-being. These words used to control behavior, but they're losing power as men realize shame from strangers matters less than personal destruction. The dating market is revealing these truths in real time. Women wondering where all the good men went while refusing to acknowledge what drove them away, standards through the roof while value offered plummets. Demands increasing while reciprocation decreases. Then confusion when men stop participating. A woman I know complained that men only want sex now, won't commit. I asked her what she offers besides sex that would make commitment worthwhile. She was offended by the question. But think about it. If you remove sex, what's the exchange? Companionship. Men have friends, emotional support. Men support each other, domestic help. Men can hire that. What's the unique value proposition? The answer used to be clear. Family, legacy, partnership, shared growth. But modern relationships often offer none of these. Instead, they offer liability, criticism, emotional labour, and financial drain. The traditional benefits have been removed while traditional obligations remain. The deal has fundamentally changed, but we're supposed to pretend it hasn't. Men are recognising the myth-breaking necessary for happiness, the myth that you need a relationship to be complete, the myth that being alone means being lonely, the myth that male value comes from female validation, the myth that sacrifice equals love. These myths kept men imprisoned in bad relationships. Breaking them means freedom. The clarity that comes from stepping back is remarkable. Men who've been out of relationships for a while report feeling like they woke up from a spell. They can't believe what they tolerated, can't understand why they accepted it, can't fathom returning to it. The fog of emotional manipulation lifts, and reality becomes undeniable. The personal growth that happens when you stop managing someone else's emotions is exponential. Suddenly you have energy for your goals, money for your dreams, time for your interests, peace for your growth. You discover who you actually are versus who you were trying to be to keep someone else happy. A client who left his marriage 2 years ago has transformed completely, lost 40 pounds, started a business, rekindled friendships, travelled the world, he told me. I didn't realise how small my life had become trying to fit into her world. He's not anti-relationship, he's pro-growth, and relationships as offered were anti-growth. The realisation that emotional independence is possible hits men like a revelation. You don't need someone else's validation to feel worthy. Don't need someone else's permission to be happy. Don't need someone else's approval to exist. The emotional dependency that relationships create isn't love, it's addiction. The withdrawal symptoms are real when men first step away. The conditioning to seek female approval runs deep. The programming to derive value from providing is strong, but push through that initial discomfort and freedom awaits. Freedom to think your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, live your own life. The response from women when men check out is telling. Not self-reflection about what might be wrong with the offer, not consideration about how to provide better value. Just anger that men aren't accepting bad deals anymore. Shaming for not playing rigged games. Rage that the manipulation isn't working. But here's the thing. Rage and shame only work on men who still care about your opinion, and increasingly they don't. They've found meaning in purpose, not relationships. Value in growth, not validation. Worth in achievement, not approval. The leverage is gone because the need is gone. The future implications of this shift are massive. Birth rates collapsing, marriage becoming obsolete, women wondering where the men went, men building parallel societies that don't include relationships as traditionally structured. The social contract between genders is breaking down. Because one side violated the terms, some women are starting to recognise this crisis. They're seeing the exodus and asking real questions. What can we offer that makes commitment worthwhile? How can we provide value that justifies the risk? What needs to change to bring men back? But these voices are drowned out by those still demanding more while offering less. The men who are done aren't necessarily gone forever. Show them a different deal they might reconsider. Offer actual partnership instead of servitude. Provide peace instead of chaos. Bring value instead of liability. But until the offer changes, the exodus will continue. The individual solution is simple. Protect yourself. Recognize emotional manipulation. Reject unfair frameworks. Refuse one-sided arrangements. Demand reciprocity or walk away. Your happiness matters. Your peace matters. Your life matters. And anyone who suggests otherwise has revealed themselves as someone to avoid. The collective solution requires honesty about what's happened. The deal changed. The benefits disappeared. The costs skyrocketed. The risks multiplied. Men aren't failing to commit. They're succeeding at risk assessment. They're not afraid of relationships. They're afraid of what relationships have become. Every man watching needs to understand. Walking away isn't failure. Refusing bad deals isn't fear. Protecting yourself isn't selfishness. Choosing peace isn't weakness. You're not broken for recognizing broken systems. You're not wrong for refusing to participate in your own destruction. The programming that says you need a relationship to be valuable is lying to you. The culture that says male sacrifice is noble, while female sacrifice is oppression, is manipulating you. The society that demands you provide while expecting nothing in return is exploiting you. See it, recognize it, reject it. Men are done with women, not because they hate women, but because they love themselves. They're choosing their own well-being over someone else's feelings, their own growth over someone else's comfort, their own life over someone else's expectations. And that terrifies a system built on male sacrifice. The question isn't, why are men done with women? The question is, why did it take so long? The deal has been bad for decades. The risks have been clear for years. The manipulation has been obvious forever. Men aren't suddenly waking up. They're finally admitting what they've known all along. The shame of walking away is nothing compared to the shame of staying in something that destroys you. The loneliness of being single is nothing compared to the loneliness of being with someone who doesn't see you. The fear of being alone is nothing compared to the fear of false accusations, financial ruin, or emotional destruction. Modern men are making a rational choice. They're looking at what's offered, analysing the costs and benefits, and deciding it's not worth it. This isn't emotional decision-making. It's logical analysis reaching obvious conclusions. The only surprise is that anyone's surprised. The attempt to reframe this as men being weak or scared is laughable. It takes strength to walk away from societal programming, courage to refuse cultural expectations, intelligence to recognise bad deals, wisdom to choose peace over chaos. Men aren't retreating. They're advancing in a different direction. What's really happening is the first widespread male rejection of a bad social contract. Throughout history, men accepted whatever deal was offered because they had to. Now they don't. They can be happy alone. Fulfilled without families, complete without relationships. The leverage that forced participation is gone. The panic this creates in certain circles is obvious. What happens when men stop participating? When they stop providing? When they stop sacrificing? When they stop accepting blame? When they stop seeking approval? The entire system built on male exploitation collapses. But for individual men, this collapse is liberation. You don't have to participate in your own destruction. Don't have to accept bad deals. Don't have to sacrifice your happiness for someone else's. Don't have to play rigged games. You can just walk away, and walking away is winning. The men who are done with women aren't bitter. They're free. Not angry, just aware. Not broken, but finally whole. They've discovered something revolutionary. They don't need what they were told they needed. They're complete as they are, happy as they are, free as they are. The ultimate red pill isn't about understanding women. It's about understanding yourself. Your value doesn't come from female validation. Your worth doesn't require relationship confirmation. Your happiness doesn't depend on someone else's. You're enough, alone, as you are. So why are so many men done with women? Because they've discovered life is better without the drama, cheaper without the demands, peaceful without the chaos, and fulfilling without the criticism. They're not missing out. They're moving on, not falling behind, but finally getting ahead. I want to hear from you guys. Are you done? What was your breaking point? When did you realise the juice wasn't worth the squeeze? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's document this exodus while it's happening. Because whether society admits it or not, something fundamental has shifted, and men walking away isn't the problem, it's the solution.